Blessings, beloveds. Just a couple of comments that I would like to make about Vulcan, which is a very specific body that's used in esoteric astrology. And I think this is very significant at the moment, particularly with the new moon in Leo coming up. And I didn't have time to go into it during that video, and I've just considered it a little bit more over the last 24 hours. And so let me just share my screen to begin with and bring up just a chart for the moment. So you can see here, let me just grab some tools. So we're in the dark phase of the moon at the moment. Okay, we can see that there's the moon in Cancer. So this is as of 6th of August, which is the 6th of August in the Southern Hemisphere. So for you guys, it'll be the 5th of August. Anyway, needless to say, we're all in the sort of the dark phase of the moon, preparing to get to that new moon. Let me just use my phone. So it's a very interesting energy in the in the ether at the moment. Okay, so preparing to get to the new moon. We know the new moon happens on the 8th of the 8th, you know, the Lion's Gate, etc. So here's Vulcan. So this red arrow, which you probably seen most of my charts because I always have it in there. And a lot of people don't know what it is, and some people do. So anyway, for those of you that don't, that red arrow, which is always located very close to the sun. Sometimes it's exactly conjunct the sun, and quite often it's also conjunct Mercury. It just varies on the individual and the chart we're looking at. But generally speaking, Vulcan can never be too much further than the sun. It's just the nature of how it is. So very quickly, Vulcan in esoteric astrology speaks to the work that we do behind the scenes, the work that we do privately, the work that we do on ourself, but the work that we do on our soul, the evolutionary growth and development, the hard work, if you like, and the dedication and devotion towards that particular level of growth that is not seen publicly. And so frequently when people have Vulcan quite prominent in their charts, and that's not to say it's prominent if it's conjunct your sun or Mercury necessarily, that would need to be assessed by an astrologer who understands, first of all, esoteric astrology, understands Vulcan, and also understands your chart and you. So don't automatically assume that Vulcan is important for all of us, but my point is that not everybody's going to integrate the Vulcan energy, especially on a conscious level. But regardless of that, for the purposes of today, what I really want to talk about is Vulcan in the sign of Leo collectively. Okay. So I think it's very interesting because what's going to happen is Vulcan is going to form an opposition to Jupiter. Now, first of all, Vulcan corresponds to the first ray. There are 7 rays in esoteric astrology, and ray number 1, which is ruled by Pluto and Vulcan, is where Vulcan sits, okay? So relative to the new moon in Leo, the Lion's Gate portal being activated now for quite a few days and climbing to its maximum sort of peak, if you like, on the 8th, which is when we have the new moon, which is when the moon actually reaches the sun in Leo at 16 degrees. Vulcan in Leo is kind of, it's amping all that energy up as well. And if you just think about some of the comments I made about the new moon in Leo relative to standing in our truth and our heart and in the light and having the courage, because the opposition and the adversity is extremely intense at the moment. In fact, we just had there was some protests in Melbourne actually just last night, and it was due to a very unexpected lockdown that was proposed yet again. We'd only been out of lockdown for I think about 8 or 9 days. That is, we were only out of lockdown for 8 or 9 days because we were in lockdown before that. And so yesterday they've locked us down again. And so there was a number of people. There was thousands actually that protested, etc. And it was a very interesting thing to observe, which I happened to find a local independent media person who actually went to the protests and recorded the whole thing live from the beginning to the end. And it was just a very interesting way to see what actually goes on in those very specific events. And I can tell you now, it's the complete opposite to what the commercial mainstream media brings forth. So if you're ever in doubt, either attend and just observe, or either observe an independent media person who will actually document the actual truth. Anyway, regardless of all of that, the Vulcan in Leo is really emphasizing and amplifying that that need for us to actually not lose touch with our heart and not lose touch with our truth. Like it literally is pointing to that now more than ever. Vulcan is always working away behind the scenes, right? And in Leo, it's very much got to do with also releasing our own sort of personal kind of egocentric attachments towards things and actually working towards the greater whole, humanity, which is speaking to the opposite, Aquarius. And I'll just read you a comment that comes out of Alan Oken's book about Vulcan in Leo. So he basically says, when moving off the mutable cross, Vulcan in Leo indicates those tests which serve to free the individual from a self-centered attachment to the creative potential of the lower self. Creative potential of the lower self. Listen to those words. Egocentricity now must yield to a focus of group consciousness. The reason he's saying that is because Aquarius is the polarity to Leo. And so the ultimate alchemical journey, process, integration, and work of Vulcan in Leo is to integrate Aquarius, which is about including humanity overall. And that's really what he's getting to there, about group consciousness, right? Once this polarization takes place and Vulcan is externalized through the fixed cross, all the potency of the will and the concrete mind, in brackets, he's got Leo's association with the first and fifth rays, can be utilized as expressions of group consciousness and channels for the second ray energy of the sun. Now, the second ray corresponds to love wisdom, which is all about unity, unison, unity, love, consciousness, bringing everybody together, bringing the human family together. So he's basically saying that the work of Vulcan in Leo can enable us to integrate the sense of group consciousness so that we can bring forth the power of the second ray, which is love, unity, wisdom. And so this is really a really important message right now, because as I said in the New Moon in Leo video, we are faced with such dynamic, intense storylines and narratives and paradigms that are being thrown at us literally from the forces that appear to be opposing, which is Saturn square Uranus, basically, in a nutshell again. And the amplification is so incredibly intense at the moment. And because of the square from Saturn and Uranus, it's only going to continue to amplify for the entire 2021, for the rest of this year. There's no question about that. But I just want to say on a positive level again that the Vulcan in Leo is enabling us to reach out and connect to the entire human family, Aquarius, and to really, again, stay devoted and strong to the light and truth of our heart center. And see, there's some interesting slogans or memes or whatever you want to call them that are going around. And there's a lot of, God, there's so much, I don't even know where to begin. But, you know, for example, I noticed that there was a picture that depicted a few words that said, it's come to the point where people standing up for freedom are being demonized as people who are, what was it exactly? It's come to the point where people are being brainwashed to believe that those that are actually courageous enough to stand against the oppressions and dictation and so on and so forth are being identified and demonized as people who are actually disrupting, the program. So unfortunately, that does bring in the whole matter of division, and blame and projection, and just that whole bullshit that continuously goes on. But at the end of the day, that the point is that way too many people are awake at the moment. Way too many people are continuously waking up, and this is happening literally on a daily basis. The amount of the amount of energy that is dispersed through people who are holding the light, who have awareness and can see the truth, is far greater than we are led to believe and think, because naturally that sort of exposure is immediately removed, right, and taken down and compromised and manipulated and demonized and etc., etc. But I'm reaching out again with these words because I want you guys to feel encouraged and to feel inspired, despite how difficult it is at the moment. And it really is, even for myself. It's it's not any easier for me, even though whatever, I have this YouTube channel, I do these videos, I have my own level of understanding and awareness. It doesn't mean that I'm outside of the tension and difficulties that are there as well. I'm very aware of them, but I'm trying to just trying to keep my energy aligned with the higher purpose, which is actually about awakening. But anyway, Vulcan forming this opposition to Jupiter in Aquarius, which it will, let me just show you. Let's just clear all those drawings. So first of all, let me just show you when Vulcan went into Leo, which is basically, let's just go back. Okay, so it's basically here. So from the 29th of July, Vulcan entered the sign of Leo. Okay, and so it's going to be there for quite some time. Well, not a lot of time, because it's always close to the sun. So as the sun changes signs, right, which is every month. Okay, so Vulcan too changes signs. But here is the interesting thing. See, Vulcan went retrograde there. Okay, that's on the 10th of August, or actually just before that. Let's see. Yep. So 9th of August, okay, which is really interesting because it's just literally before the new moon, isn't it? You can see the moon ahead of the sun here. The moon is actually moved forward to 27 degrees. So, a day before that was actually conjunct the sun, which is where we had the new moon. And so this is where Vulcan goes retrograde in Leo. And it goes retrograde not for a long time, just a few days. Okay, so there it is there. Stops being retrograde by the 15th of August. And so as we proceed forward, you can see here on this day, 20th of August, which will be the 19th in the Northern Hemisphere. Oh, sorry, that's the sun. Let me just take it a little bit more forward. So so just a day or so. So let's say about the 20th, 21st of August, Vulcan is actually opposite Jupiter. This is a very significant opposition, particularly while Jupiter is retrograde, because one thing about Jupiter going retrograde back into Aquarius, it's going to, and it is already, and we can see that already, it's going to bring up everything relative to humanity and what's actually happening to humanity in terms of the bigger picture and in terms of the immediacy of what's going on a day-to-day basis. That's why Jupiter just, it literally just took a couple of steps into Pisces, and then it went back into Aquarius, because it's got unfinished business in Aquarius, which is all about humanity. And the Jupiter in Aquarius is actually, it's amazing really, because it's amplifying what humanity is actually truly concerned about and where humanity stands. And there is division, there is what appears to be a majority that are aligning with the program, and there is what appears to be a minority that are actually standing outside of the program. But either way, Jupiter is going to amplify whichever position is being held, and that needs to be seen. either way. It just needs to be seen. So Jupiter retrograde in Aquarius is really just amplifying all of that. My phone is going off. I was wondering what that sound was because I recently changed my ringtone. So these days are around about 20th, 21st of August are going to be quite significant and quite pivotal relative to Vulcan and Jupiter. Remember that quite apart from Vulcan, speaking to the inner alchemical soul work that we do, it's also connected to ray number 1, which corresponds to Pluto, which is what? It's about transformation, okay? And it's basically about tapping into our will power. The strongest alignment of will is ray number 1, period, because it corresponds to Pluto. Pluto Vulcan, ray number 1, enable us to tap into the greatest level of will that we have inside us. And we absolutely need the greatest will that we've ever needed is right now, the willpower to stand in the face of adversity, in the face of opposition, which will come at everything and everyone much more than what you even see it today. It's inevitable because there is, as I've said in my New Moon in Leo video, there is a clear seeing evidence of the darker forces are losing control. It's just as simple as that. And so the more they fear their loss of control and power, the more they will amplify what appears to be the control. So there are some of you that will hear this and, won't care for it and won't agree to it and are not interested in this. And that's fine and dandy with me, but I'm not going to stop speaking from what I feel is actually a place of awareness, first of all, a place of understanding and a place of the heart and the truth. Now, this truth won't suit a lot of people, and again, that's okay. But for those of you that are on board, and I know many of you are, and I'm very grateful that you are connecting with me because it also keeps me inspired as well. I'm human just like you guys. I can't do this on my own. I need you guys as much as you need me. It's just how it is. We have to think about that from the whole collective sort of family. We all actually need each other because at the end of the day, again, the final truth is that if everybody actually stood up in the truth through their heart, willpower and courage, everything would crumble within seconds. Game over. Simple as that. But anyway, we just need to step into it day by day as best we can with wherever we are at individually. But these energies are very prominent for enabling us to integrate powerful forces that can actually assist us. Vulcan, Ray 1, Pluto, willpower, Leo, courage, opposite Jupiter, representing the people, humanity, the Jupiter in Aquarius, expanding the needs of the people, the true needs of the people, the needs of the people that speaks to a system that has to be Aquarian based because Jupiter's in Aquarius, which is what? It's about justice, equality, fairness, and a human collective unison. That's what it's about. So let's just keep going, guys, and do the best that we can. Love you all very much. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.